Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today is going to be a bit different. Rather than a project review, today we're going to talk about the topic between leasehold versus freehold. The epic battle. Who will win, especially in Singapore's context. But TLDR, there is no one winner. It actually depends on your needs and see whether the leasehold or freehold suits you in different life stages at a point of time. So if you'd like to know whether leasehold or freehold suits you at this particular point of time in your life, you can contact me at 93690713 where I'll weigh the pros and the cons for leasehold and freehold and see which is actually better for you. Now without further ado, let's dive into the video. Okay, so here's going to be the overview of the video. First, I'll be breaking down what is a freehold and what is a leasehold, and actually why is there even a leasehold and a freehold in the first place, their purposes, their benefits. Then I'll break down their respective district performance. So seeing how freehold performs in each district and how leasehold performs in each district. But TLDR, they're actually quite a fair fight, but one actually beats the other in performance. So comment down your thoughts, which do you think is actually performing better? Then after my final verdict of leasehold versus freehold, I'll be recommending you some freehold options and see whether that freehold new launches actually benefits you or not. Especially now in 2026 when the 99-year leasehold is actually decreasing. That means the supply is limited. So that might actually increase the prices because of the high demand and low supply. So might this be a good time to upgrade to a freehold? We don't know. Let's see to the end of the video. But before we begin the video, I do have to say that personally I do prefer a freehold because of its longevity and ownership. But definitely there are some pros owning a 99 over a freehold. But then again, I'll be transparent in all the pros and the cons of the leasehold and the freehold. So what is the difference between the 99 and a freehold? Obviously, it's the tenure. So 99 means you can only own that property for 99 years. After the 99 years is up, it returns back to the state. That means it goes back to the government. But for freehold, it will always perpetually be yours. So in general, that's the main differences between the 99 and also the freehold. But then you might be thinking, where did the traditional mindset of always owning a freehold, like freehold is best, freehold is king, where did that traditional mindset come from? And also, why now do we see a shift in this traditional mindset, where now many young generation buyers are actually preferring leasehold over freehold? So let's begin with the shifting of mindset. This mindset shift is actually due to the efforts of Mr. Lee Kuan Yew. So Mr. Lee Kuan Yew and the Singapore Land Authorities had actually done away the freehold status back in 1970s. Reason being is to also address the main issue in Singapore, land scarcity. So with 99-year leasehold, it helps to promote the evolution of Singapore's city skyline and also the landscape of Singapore. So it doesn't hinder the development of the city, but it's always improving and always evolving. So now imagine if Singapore only has freehold status, that means Singapore's landscape will never be changing. Or at least the chances of it changing is harder. Because now they have to ask for permission for the freehold owners whether they can redevelop or buy over the plot of land. But for 99, that means after 199 years, it goes back to the state. So now the states can do whatever it wants to evolve the land for its benefit. So definitely the main issue of just issuing freehold land in Singapore is because it hinders the development of Singapore itself. So let me give you an example. Usually those freehold buildings, they're back in the very early days. That means they're developed based on their population's needs at that point of time. But because the needs of Singapore is always changing due to the increase of population, where they need to create more housing, that freehold development at that point of time only caters to the needs of Singapore at that period of time. But because Singapore is now ever changing, the freehold doesn't meet the requirements of Singapore today. That's why you see in general the freehold developments in Singapore, they tend to be more boutique, like a small building or a few units only. Not saying that all freeholds are small developments, there are definitely some big developments out there, but in general there are more smaller boutique freehold developments than there are bigger freehold developments. But you see now in today's market, all the 99-year-old leaseholds are generally bigger, where they can hold up to 500 to 1,000 units in each development. So with that, you have your first hint. That means the 99 years is actually catering to the needs of Singaporeans in today's market, while the freehold was actually catering to the needs of Singaporeans in the previous market. So to recap, the main difference between the 99-year leasehold and also the freehold is mainly because of its tenure, where 99 is only 99 and freehold is forever. And also the size and the scale of the development, where 99 tends to be a little bit bigger with better facilities that meet the needs of families more, while freehold tends to be on the smaller side, more boutique with lesser facilities, or some don't even have facilities, they just have the building. So with this, you can understand why the younger generations or the younger buyers, they're preferring the leasehold more. But why is some people still preferring the freehold over the leasehold? Even though there's data to prove that actually leasehold can appreciate faster and much more than freehold. So for us to understand the consumer behavior of why freehold is always better for them, we need to go back into time. So here's a diagram to illustrate the relationship between Singapore's income and Singapore's property prices, where Singapore's income is represented in red line and the Singapore's property prices is represented in the blue line. So as you can see from this diagram, back in 2014 and earlier, you see that the red line is lower than the blue line. So what does that mean? That means in average for the Singapore household, a housing is actually unaffordable. Because why? Because the prices are much higher than its income. So for families who could afford it back then, the number one worry is actually when they want to sell, who are they going to sell it to? Because majority of the Singaporeans or the locals there, they cannot afford a housing. So the chances of them exiting is longer and lower. So with this uncertain exit timeline, to the families, freehold makes a lot of sense because the exit strategy is unclear. But moving to 2006, you see that the red line has actually caught up with the blue line. So that meant the general public can now afford the housing, which then led to a property boom. So fast forward 2010 to 2014, you can see many fluctuations, which means the market is not stable. And that's what the government doesn't want. So what did they do? They introduced cooling measures to help stabilize the real estate market in Singapore. So many actually think that cooling measures are not good, but they are actually needed and necessary to help stabilize the market. If not, we get property prices which are super inflated. And that could make history repeat itself where the property prices is way above the general income of Singaporeans, making it unaffordable. So that's a no-no for the government. So these cooling measures will always help to make the property prices lower than the income for Singaporean, making them more affordable. So that's why even though you hear Singaporeans complain about the property prices, what do you see? The units are always moving, it's always getting sold. Reason being, because the property prices is actually lower than the Singapore's income, making it affordable even though with high prices. And since housing is a necessity, if I can afford it, even though it's expensive, I buy. So one example you can take note is back in 2020 to 2021, where there was COVID, and the Singapore's average income dropped by 50%. But because of the income being higher than the property prices, even though there's a drop in income value, people still could afford it, so they buy. So that's why I can see property prices still increasing even though there was a COVID crisis back in 2021 and 2020. So now with this in mind, the mindset shifts because now people could afford the housing. The exit strategy becomes more clear because now they know as long as there's a need and affordability is met, Singaporeans will still buy the house. So the timeline for you to sell the property actually shortens, and with that in mind, it actually drops the appeal of the freehold. Where back in the day, owning a freehold property was more of a necessity because the exit strategy was unclear. But now that the exit strategy is clear, freehold becomes to be more of a choice rather than a need. So that changed the consumer behavior, especially for the younger generation buyers. So this significantly created a movement where the leasehold properties are actually outperforming the freehold properties in terms of appreciation and demand. But does that mean leasehold will always beat freehold now? Not true. Leasehold will always outperform freehold in terms of short to medium term, but when it comes to long term, freehold still wins. So when I say short to medium term, generally is between the 5-year mark to the 20-year-old mark, but then long term is usually 20 or to 30 years. So the reason why leasehold outperforms the freehold in that short to medium term, because leasehold in general has a lower entry price. So with this lower entry price, in general it appreciates more at a faster rate and also increases the demand of majority of the local Singaporeans because it is more affordable. But freehold shines an absolute dollar gain in the long term because they do not have lease decay. Because the leasehold value actually follows the Ballas curve. But the question to ask yourself now is, have you ever seen a 99-year leasehold fulfill its whole 99 years? The answer is no. Before that, it probably had en bloc sale. So does this Balla curve even apply to Singapore's context or not? So you can see the diagram here, we have the Balla curve, where it shows the leasehold value as a percentage of the freehold value. And as you can see, it's a non-linear depreciation, meaning the property prices don't drop in a straight line. There's a sudden dip. once it passed a certain period of time. That means there'll be a slow depreciation for the first few years and then a faster depreciation in the remaining shorter end of the years. So in this diagram, you can see that 60 lease remaining is actually 80% value of a freehold. Then the remaining 30 years of a leasehold is actually 60% value of a freehold. So that's what the Bala curve represents. But if that was true, why is the appreciation for leasehold outperforming the freehold, especially in the first period of the years? This is because of the good efforts from the government where they implied the cooling measures. So this is why Singapore's real estate market is very unique and different from other countries. And that's why it's safe to say that the Bala's curve don't really apply to Singapore fully. And there are other factors to determine the value of the real estate in Singapore. But again, a freehold and leasehold, there'll always be this price gap, because one option is buying out of necessity and the other option is buying out of a preference or a choice. So that's why it's very rare to see that the freehold pricing and the leasehold pricing are the same. And they're very rare windows of opportunity where they're actually the same. And I'll give you a list of freehold condo new launch developments that are actually quite comparable with the leaseholds now. So going back to the Bala's curve, if it's not applicable in Singapore, then what are the factors that affect the values and demand of the property in Singapore? Number one, you have location. Properties in the CCR, near the MRT, near to top schools, near shopping malls. All these boost livability. Number two, maintenance. With good maintenance, it helps hold the value longer and increases the chances of having an en bloc sale. So now we understand the purpose of why people buy freehold, leasehold, and why the vision and the behavior changed. Now let's move on to the respective performance for each district for freehold and leasehold. So in this diagram, you can see the performance for freehold, new condo sale, and also their resale, and the leasehold, new condo sale, and their resale also. So this data starts from Q1 2014 to Q1 2026. Why from 2014 is because that's when the cooling measures effect started to kick in, leading to the market stability of Singapore. And that's where the change of the consumer behavior starts to happen too. So talking about appreciation, freehold new sale arise from 79.32% and the freehold resale rise from 43.21%. The 99 new sale had a 125% increase and the 99 resale had a 64.8% increase in appreciation. So interestingly, you can see that the 99 new sale was the same value as a freehold resale in 2015. But after that, the 99 new launch new sale had a significant jump in value compared to the resale freehold. Another thing to take note is that the resale value for leasehold has also increased more compared to the freehold resale. So that's quite interesting to see that the leasehold is actually outperforming the freehold. But the question is, why is that so? I thought freehold is king. Yes, freehold is only king in tenure. But in terms of livability and usability, leasehold tends to be better because it has more efficient layout, bigger facilities, and more modern design. So here's an example. Allsworth Condo, a freehold development. A 2-bedder comes in around 1,033 square feet. In today's market with URA home improvements, that is actually a 3-bedder or sometimes a 4-bedder compact. So you can see the efficiency of space is not there. Again, not saying all freeholds are like this, I'm saying majority of the freehold have these characteristics, where the efficiency of space is generally not as efficient in the leasehold market today. So that is why you can see that the 99 actually appreciates more and has a better demand compared to the freehold. And when you know there is demand and the demand increases, so will the price. Another thing that you can take note is that if you focus in Q3 2025, the price gap between freehold and leasehold was actually 4.9%. So to be honest, it was a good chance to enter into the freehold market. But if you miss this chance, don't worry, it doesn't mean that you will never have the chance again, because at the end of the video, I'll be recommending you some freehold new launch developments that are actually comparable to leasehold prices. So stay tuned to the end of the video. Freehold new launch grew 79.32% compared to leaseholds 125.39%. So that's almost a 50% difference. So then why you still buy freehold is because of your objective. The data shows that people buy freehold because of legacy planning. The majority of the buyers are actually in their late 40s or 50s to buy that freehold location so they can in a way choke the location for the future generations. But for young couples who want to have that lifestyle and capital appreciation and also a brand new development, then definitely 99 leasehold is a better choice. So in the next few slides, I'll be going through all 28 districts in Singapore to see whether the freehold or leasehold wins. So TLDR, there are 13 districts that show that freehold fares better in performance than the leasehold, and there is 10 districts that show that leasehold performs better than the freehold. So does that mean freehold is still king? Well, not really. If only real estate is that black and white. But I'll be showing you my data and my verdict for you to judge for yourself. So, District 1, this is where your Raffles Place, Cecil Street, Marina, and People's Park is going to be at. You can see that Freehold made a gain of 6.16% and Leasehold made a loss of 28.13%. So the question is, why is that? So this is where history comes into play. CBD areas are generally the first few areas in Singapore to be developed. And with 99 new launch leasehold, relatively a newer concept in Singapore, generally there are more freehold developments in the CBD compared to the leaseholds. And also CBD areas such as District 1 being a very expensive and premium location. Even when there is 99 new launch, the developers aren't targeting the locals there, they're targeting the foreigner demographics. Because in general, the prices are more accommodating to foreigners rather than the locals, because the locals' affordability is lower than the foreigners. So that means the location was premium and it reflected in its prices. So if majority of the target audience for the developers were the foreigners, all the funny ideas come to play already, because the developers want to attract the foreigners. That means they have unique novelties, such as open concept kitchen, a bigger balcony for a city view, and also bay windows and fancy irregular layout shapes. So all these seem to be appealing to the foreigners, but they're not so appealing to the local families. So now when the cooling measures came out, the foreigners had to pay 60% ABSD, and that definitely pushed the foreigners away. But the prices are still expensive. So now with the main target audience, the foreigners, are being pushed away because of the ABSD, and the livability of the development in the CBD area is very bad. Locals don't want to buy because of these unique novelties. It's no surprise that the freehold will outlast the leasehold, because the leasehold now has a lease decay to pull its depreciation down. That's why you see freehold appreciating, but not much. Okay, now District 2. This is where your Anson, Tanjong Pagar area is going to be at. Actually, there's not much leasehold here. Some of the leasehold that I can think of is probably one Burnham and also Wallace Residences, but apparently they all fall in the District 1 catchment area, so regardless, the freehold will fare better over here. So now moving on to District 3, where your Queenstown, Redhill and Tiong Bahru area is going to be. So these are where your $1 million HDBs are located at, and for good reason too, because you're close to the city area without paying the city price premium. So this in general is more popular for the local families because you're close to the city, and also it's slightly more affordable compared to the city area itself. That's why you see a freehold gain 56% and the leasehold gain only 54%. But the reason why freehold wins is because majority of the people who plan to stay there, they plan to stay there for a very long time. So naturally freehold makes sense. Okay, now so moving on to District 4, where we have Telok Blangah and Harbourfront. You can see from the chart, freehold actually gained 40% and the leasehold gained only 31.5%. So the reason for this result is also quite similar to District 3 because of the good location of families, which is close to the city area, but you also don't need to pay for that premium price tag. So the majority of people who plan to stay there, they plan to stay there for a very long time too. Moving on to District 5, we have a mixture of Pasir Panjang and Clementi Township. So the freehold wins by 55% and the leasehold only 38.5%. The freehold located at Pasir Panjang are mainly the boutique developments, which I say are not the major factors that push the percentage of the freehold. I would say the freehold at the Clementi ones are the one that are pulling the appreciation rate more. So these condos tend to be bigger, such as Bontania, but I do see that the leasehold will catch up in performance because some of the recent leaseholds at Clementi areas, they're performing very well, and they've already profited up to $300,000 to $500,000, such as Clavon and Clementi Canopy. For District 6 and 7, you only have 99-year leasehold, you don't have freehold, so there is no comparison. So moving on to District 8, Little India area, where leasehold wins with 40% and only freehold has 29%. So why did leasehold outperform the freehold in District 8? It's because of newer, bigger, and more modern, newer launch designs, such as sturdy residences, Piccadilly Grand, and even City Light. Moving on to District 9, where you have Orchard, Cane Hill and River Valley, where we have a clear winner, where freehold comes in at 34% and leasehold only 5.78%. So the reason why, I think you already know lah. You're already staying in the most central part of Singapore. So where else are you going to upgrade to? so naturally Freehold makes more sense. That's why you can see leasehold developments such as OE, Twin Peak and K9 doing so poorly in performance, and some actually have a 10 to 15% loss. And you see freehold projects in Patterson and Grange area doing so well and holding record-breaking profits. And a lot of people who stay in this area come from old money. And when you come from old money, that means you have traditional mindset. So with this traditional mindset and also the location being the most central part of Singapore already, freehold will naturally win. Now District 10, where you have Holland Road, Tan Lin, Edmore and Bukit Timah. So to be honest, I'm quite surprised because leasehold actually wins, where freehold gained only 29% and leasehold gained 37%. So that was very interesting to me because District 10 is also a very prime area and people who want to stay there, they probably want to stay there for good. So I went to do some digging and actually I found something very interesting because District 10 is more of a landed area. While there are still some condos there, but majority of the condos which are leasehold, they're launched more recently. So that means they're bigger, newer and have better facilities compared to the freehold developments. So the leasehold condos that are launched there are more recent, bigger and has better facilities such as Sky Holland and One Holland Village. But for the freehold condo developments, they tend to have smaller facilities where it's just a building itself or a walk-up apartment where the layout is generally very big but not efficient. And they don't have facilities at all, or some even just have a very small pool. So facilities wise, it is not so good compared to the leasehold. So with that said, the leasehold condo projects in District 10 itself is more livable compared to the freehold condo developments. But not saying there are no good freehold condo developments there. The only one that I can probably think of right now is probably Leiden Green. Other than that, there are not much. District 11, Novena and Newton area. So freehold wins with a 46% and leasehold only has a 23.55%. Reason why is because of schools. There are many top schools in the area such as SJI, SEGS and ACS. So for this location, freehold makes sense because of the duration of the education. So if you want to register for a primary school there, you technically have to move in before you register for primary school. That is around 1 year before registering. Then another 6 years for primary school, and if you're continuing your studies there, another 4 years for secondary school. So that's more than 10 years duration already. Plus, it's also close to the city center area. So because of the school factor and the location factor, people will tend to stay there. They tend to stay there for a long time too. District 12, Balestier, Toa Payoh and a small portion of Serangoon. So you can see freehold lost terribly. Leasehold performing 111%, freehold only performed 42%. So the reason why the freehold didn't perform so well in that location is because the development size is more boutique and they only cater for 1 to 2 bedders, very few for the bigger unit size, such as the project Okio and Interweave. But for the freeholds that have the 3 and 4 bedders, they are generally performing quite well. Another thing to take note is that Toa Payoh makes up majority of D12, and Toa Payoh itself has a very high volume of HDBs and very few privates. So there are around 45,450 HDB units there, while private there's only 2,646. So you can see that the private developments there are generally on a low supply. So that's the reason why the recent 99 sold in the past few years is sold like crazy and they're appreciating a lot, such as Gem Residences and Ori, because of the high demand and low supply. District 13, Macpherson and Bredel. Leasehold wins with 71.95% and freehold only 65.88%. District 13 actually shares the similar characteristics as District 12, just that District 13 has more landed and industrial areas. District 14, Geylang and Eunos. So freehold wins with a 62% and leasehold only 29%. So the freehold in this location, there's actually quite a mix of boutique and large project developments. But being close to the city centre, most of them will be happy to stay there for a long period of time. If you like the lifestyle of Geylang and Eunos, you'll probably stay there for a very long time. And that's why you can see the value of the projects in that location actually fare very well. So even some of the leaseholds such as Waterbank at Dakota and Dakota Residences, they also perform very well. But nonetheless, freehold performs better in Geylang and Eunos. District 15, Katong, Joo and Amber Road area. So the freehold actually barely wins with 61% and freehold only 58%. So to me, this was actually very surprising because majority of the projects there are freehold and also the location is very good. It's so close to the city area, plus you're so close to the East Coast Park. So naturally, people who want to stay there, I would think that they want to stay there for a very long time. But I did some digging, and actually, District 15 is a mature estate with a lot of multi-gen living. So being very mature, there are very little rooms for new developments to take place. So with that, the government has actually focused a lot of transformation happening in that area itself. So I suspect the reason for such transformation is because the high demand. There are many people who wants to move over to District 15 itself, or even the younger generations who stay in that area from the multi-gen living household, they want to have their own place now. So with this influx of demand coming into the District 15 area, the government has no choice but to do a transformation. So that's why you can see the government's vision and efforts are taking place, where you can see they repurpose the land for more housing. You can see areas such as the Marina Golf Course. Now they're gonna demolish the whole area and make it into a base ground for more residential housing. So that's how you know that demand is growing, and that's why also the recent 99 leasehold new launches like Tembusu Grand, Emerald Katong, The Shore are selling off so well. So with this, you can see that the leasehold is outperforming the freehold. District 16, Bedok, Eastwood and Kew Drive. So the leasehold actually wins here with 35% and freehold only 34%. So a narrow win for the leasehold. Again, this is a tussle between the newer developments and the older developments, where the newer developments has better livability and facilities compared to the freehold developments. So with this, the leasehold barely wins. District 17, Loyang area, freehold wins with 70% and leasehold only 35%. So the reason why the leasehold don't really fare so well is because most of the people staying there are the older generations, and they probably like the serenity of the location. So this location actually suits the extreme side of the buyers, where they want to be away from the city area. They want peace and quiet. So people who choose this kind of locations, they tend to want to stay there for a long period of time too. That's why the freehold developments there have higher demand. But more importantly, there's upcoming Loyang MRT in the works. So this will bring in new infrastructure, and when there's new infrastructure transformation, that means the government has plans to bring more people into the area, bring more demand here. And that could actually boost the performance of the leasehold projects. But for now, freehold is leading. District 18, Tampines Pasir Ris area. Leasehold wins with a 59% and freehold only 44%. So by now, I think you can see a pattern emerging. Districts where the leasehold are winning tends to be where the government is focusing its transformation on. So of course, with transformation, that means the new developments have to be more efficient and livable compared to the older ones. So this brings in the demand, and that increases the value of the project itself. And the freehold generally does well in a more mature development with little room for transformation. And that's why you see with District 18 having many transformation, the leasehold is outperforming the freehold. Now District 19, Serangoon, Hougang and Punggol area. Similar again, you see the leasehold winning with 58% and the freehold only 26%. So the reason is very similar because of transformation and also involving newer developments happening in the area, such as Florence Residence, Tron Park, Affinity and the Garden Residence at Serangoon. So these were created to meet the influx of new generation population entering into this district. District 20, Bishan, Ang Mo Kio. So freehold wins with 63% and leasehold only 49%. The reason why is because Ang Mo Kio and Bishan generally are good location, and people who want to stay there, they'll stay there for a very long period of time. Another factor is the schools. Bishan has a few good and top performing schools in Singapore. So when people move in there for the school, in general they stay there for a longer period of time. So, in this case, freehold makes more sense. District 21, Upper Bukit Timah, Clementi and Ulu Pandan. Leasehold is the clear winner here with 144% and freehold only 50%. Again, why? Because of transformation, where you can see Upper Bukit Timah having a transformation because of the downtown line infrastructure and also the development of new malls. So naturally, with this new infrastructure, the government is going to be adding more housing supplies there, making the freeholds there perform significantly better, such as Reserve Residences, Daintree, Foret. But of course, there are some good freehold projects in the location too. You have Signature Park, Springdale and South Haven too. But you see, because of the transformation and the influx of new generation coming into the district, you will see leasehold performing much better. Okay, Jurong area, not much freehold there, only leasehold where it gained at 34%. So not much comparison here. District 23, Hillview, Choa Chu Kang and Dairy Farm. So, freehold wins with a 62% and leasehold only 48%. Reason why? Because there are not much leasehold in the location, majority of it are freehold on 999. Plus also there's not much major transformations happening in the area. And usually people who live in the Hillview area or the Dairy Farm area, they tend to want to be away from the city and closer to nature. So these are preferences on the lifestyle. And for those people who want to stay in that lifestyle, they'll stay there for a longer period of time. District 24. Tengah and Lim Chu Kang. There is no freehold in the area, and it being a new township, there is only HDBs there at the moment, but the first private condo developments will be launched this year 2026. You have Tengah Gardens. So if you're interested to know about that development, you can contact me at 9369-0713. District 25, Kranji and Woodlands area. Mainly it's just leasehold, there is no freehold. So finally, the government is focusing its efforts in transforming the Woodlands area. If you see the URA transformation, it just sits in the heart of the Northern Gateway, where they have plans to make another CBD area catering to the transformation of the Woodlands. District 26, Upper Thomson, Springleaf and Lentor. So this doesn't need much introductions, with the Springleaf residences and all the Lentor housing supply doing very well. Leasehold wins with 144%, where Freehold is only 49%. Reason being is because there are major transformations happening in the area, like all the malls and the Thompson East Coast line. So all these new leasehold housing units are there to help bring more population to the supply. So as you know, major transformations in the area such as the mall and transportation infrastructure, the leasehold tends to perform better due to its livability and usability for the younger generations. District 27, Yishun and Sembawang, Freehold wins with 77% and leasehold only 38%. So as you know, this location, some might say is quite ulu, so the people who stays there want to stay there. They generally come from the extreme end of the spectrum where they do not want a city lifestyle. They want more of a natural and quieter, peaceful lifestyle. So those who plan to stay there for a long time. So that's why freehold developments in that district performs better. Plus also, there is not much transformations happening in that area, so far no newer developments has been added in that location too. District 28, Seletar area. Again, for the same reason as District 27, where people choose to live there because of the peaceful and tranquil lifestyle, and they plan to stay there for a longer period of time. So you see the freehold performing better than leasehold with a 64% and leasehold only 37%. Okay, so that comes to the end of the district breakdown analysis. So you can see that the pattern is actually quite clear. For those districts with new townships and new major transformation, which are to cater to the influx of new generation entering into that district, you tend to see the leasehold performing better than the freehold. Even in District 10 and 15, where it is generally a more mature estate, with many freehold developments in the location. But because of this new transformation and new infrastructure, there's to cater to the new influx of generations to stay there. You see the 99 leasehold performing better than the freehold. And where the freehold shines is actually in mature estates where there are good schools and actually no room for any transformation happening. So in that case, the freehold wins. Okay, so now moving on to the freehold new launch segment. So using the tools, we have filtered out the freehold developments that are good for families. One of the criteria is it has to be more than 100 units and above. Generally, this means that the facility provided will be of decent size and usability. So here are the results. There is Cassia, Arena East Residences, the Arcade at Boon King, Magnon House, Terra Hill, the Line at Tanjung Ru, the Continuum, Boulevard 88, Mirror Blue and Wharton House. So out of these options, here are my top picks. Cassia at Loyang District includes the units of 2-bedroom, 3-bedrooms and 4-bedroom layouts. So the 2-bedroom comes in at a size of approximately about 753 square feet, starting at $1.5 million. For the 3-bedroom units, starting around $2.145 million, and the 4-bedroom unit starting around $2.5 million. Price range average is about 1,875 to 2,000 PSF. So again, this is in the Loyang district, and this district, the freehold tends to perform better than the 99. This is largely due to this long-established residents who prefers quiet and tranquil lifestyle environment. But remember, the Loyang MRT is upcoming, which could actually begin the start of a transformation in that area. So the buyers will actually benefit from entering in the pre-infrastructure growth stage. That means you'll be capturing both the freehold advantage and also the future transformation upsides. So this, guys, you can enjoy best of both worlds. That means you get freehold stability and infrastructure upsides. Next, we have Arena East, District 15, Freehold, where the 1-bedroom starting at the size of 495 square feet at 1.318 million. The 2-bedroom comes in around 678 square feet, coming in at 1.888 million. 3 bedrooms, 1,087 square feet, comes around 2.938 million, and for the larger stacks, the 4 bedrooms comes in around 3.888 million. But from what I know, there is currently a one price promotion. So the developers have actually reduced the price from 3,200 PSF all the way to 2,600 PSF. So to be honest, this actually makes Arena East a very attractive freehold opportunity to enter into. Why I think this is quite important, because if you look at the new launches in 2026, especially in the OCR and RCR area, some of the 3-bedroom compact is coming in at $2.5 to $2.6 million. This is largely due to the limited supply. So this increases the price, making the price gap between the freehold and also the leasehold much smaller. So within the time of recording, Arena East actually sold off 5 units already within a period of 3 days. Because Arena East has many good characteristics, such as being a freehold in District 15, next to MRT, just 3 minutes walk, very competitive pricing. Next we have Arcady at Boon King. So this has the third lowest average quantum in the list with around 2.9 million. For the 3-bedroom, comes in at a size of 1,496 square feet, around 2,419 PSF. Then the other bedroom size comes in around 1,281 square feet with around 2,540 PSF. The 2-bedroom comes in around 678 square feet with around 1.94 million. So the strength of this development is actually an en bloc development. So because of this redevelopment, it actually has the URA improvement policies integrated within this layout, making the layout more efficient and livable, plus having bigger and more usable facilities compared to its older freehold neighbors such as 8 River Suites and also Jui. So other freehold developments that you can consider is Bagnon House, Terra Hill, The Continuum, Boulevard 88, Mayor Blue, Wharton House. So in general, these are the list of new launch freehold developments that I think is quite interesting to take a look at, especially now in 2026 market, because the cost for these developments are based on the previous year's land cost, which makes these pricing for these developments actually very competitive to this year's new launch leasehold developments. So now my top 3 picks from out of this whole list is actually number 1, Arena East, due to its one price promotion. That means regardless of its level location, they all share the same price, where the 3-bedroom premium comes in about 2.9 million, where many of the freehold 3-bedders actually comes in above the $3 million mark. So this makes Arena East very attractive because of its location, convenience, and also right now, the entry price. Okay, so second choice will have to be Terra Hill at District 5. They're also having a promotion currently, but it makes their entry price very comparable to the 99 here leasehold. Located in the same district as Alta, Alta's higher floors PSF is already reaching 2,800 PSF. For Terra Hill's pricing is about 2,600 to 2,800 PSF, where actually some units are seeing 2,400 to 2,500 PSF. And being just walking distance away from the MRT, it does make this very comparable and competitive to new leasehold developments now. But one thing to take note is that this project is located on a slope. So some units will be facing a retaining wall and others will have nice and open views. So you need to be selective for which unit you choose. So compared to Alta, Terra Hill doesn't really have a lot of nice views. But if you don't care about the views, then definitely Terra Hill will be more bang for your buck. Then my third choice would be Arcady at Boon King, where the average PSF is about 2,681 and the lowest PSF is around 2,400. So here are some comparable benchmarks. For Lentor, you have 99-year leasehold. The average PSF is about 2,300 to 2,400 PSF. For Alta, it's 2,800 to 2,900 PSF. And for Bloomsbury, it's about 2,500 PSF. So with Arcady being an RCR freehold, it offers only an average of 2,500 to 2,600. So this makes it very competitive. But again, the unit selection is very crucial. So again, freehold is not for everyone, but if you're prioritizing over legacy planning and want long-term stability rather than just quick market flips, then freehold definitely is quite suitable for you. So thank you for watching to the end of the video. I hope this was beneficial and fruitful for you. If you have any other further questions or you want to see some of these new freehold new launch developments, you can contact me at 93690713, where I'll gladly show you around the show flat and also do a further analysis to see which unit, which facing, and which orientation is best suited for your needs. Thank you again for sticking to the end of the video, and I'll see you in the next one.